Okay, it's there in the Metal Theologian. Alright, so this is a contest entry. Actually, I haven't done one of these in a while. But this was someone I just discovered, actually. So I'm still getting used to his channel. It's Farley. Alright? And Farley did a contest, which is kind of an interesting topic. Even though in a way it really pisses me off, and I'll get to that. He does a lot of vinyl rips. So, like, there's a lot of stuff in his channel that, like, you know, isn't just talking about records, so it's kind of unusual that way, but, you know, you can check it out. Alright, so anyway, this soda that I've got going on today is some weird, like, British thing.
You know what else is unusual? This soda.
Yeah, it's the original and best, though. It says right at the top. It's Iron Brew, or Iron Bar Brew. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to be. Maybe Iron Brew Bar?
It's probably bar, like the company, and then Iron Brew.
That's funny, you can tell it's from the UK because it has real sugar in it, even though it's in a plastic bottle. So, I don't know if this is supposed to be an energy drink or what. It does have caffeine in it, as well as ferric ammonium citrate, which sounds fantastic. But yeah, let's give this a shot. I've never heard of this before. It looks like it's probably going to be a citrus thing, but I don't know. Might be like an energy drink or something. Not a lot of fizz there when I cracked it. Yeah, it's pretty light on the carbonation. This is barely a soda. It's a weird flavor, though. I thought it's not like citrus like I thought it would be. Hang on. It reminds me of something. I don't know. Here, see if you can put your finger on it. It's almost like artificial banana I'm tasting in there, like with the citrus.
Really?
And I'll tell you, don't get me wrong, because I love artificial banana flavor. You know, like those Laffy Taffies? I was like, are this like super artificial banana? I think that shit tastes awesome.
Kind of smells like cream soda.
It's not like cream soda. Well, maybe it is. I don't think it is. Take a belt. It's not like cream soda. Thanks.
That's kind of a medicinal taste to it.
I don't think it's medicinal.
I don't mean the
I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't think it's medicinal.
Actually, you know what it smells. You know what it tastes like?
What?
It doesn't taste like it in your mouth, but it leaves like a chewing gum kind of after, just like a really sugary bubble gum. Kind of tastes like that.
It's weird, man. If you get a chance to try it, it's worth a try. I don't know if I'd say this is like a top 5. You gotta get this. I wouldn't say that at all, but it's weird, you know? It's unusual. It's not as good as that pumpkin one I did recently. It was just fucking outstanding, even though it didn't taste like pumpkin. I'm doing something with my tapes, by the way. I don't know if you can see all this shit, but I don't really talk about this. I don't talk about black metal in my videos, but if you want to see what an original goat terrorism tape looks like, that's it. That's actually what they're called, is goat terrorism. I think that's fucking hilarious. Alright, so anyway, here's Farley's contest, alright? Farley's contest was, if the Big 4 were to be expanded to the Big 5, who would your 5th entry be? Okay, there are a couple issues here. First of all, I really hate and kind of resent the notion of the Big 4, because that whole term was coined by people who are not into metal, who don't give a shit about metal, who are basically lazy boomer journalists who wanted a convenient tag for the bands, the thrash bands that in their estimation were selling the most records. And so they put that out there, and somehow it's stuck, and it just kind of pisses me off. Okay, obviously it's Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica, and Slayer. The only one of those bands that I unequivocally just love is Slayer, and I'm pretty okay with Anthrax, even through kind of the bad years. I mean, that I'm the Man shit really turned me off, and eventually got me away from the band, but they never went down the bad rabbit holes that Metallica went down. Okay, so taking my personal issues out of it, though, it's actually kind of an interesting question. Because if you think about what the criteria are that question encompasses, they're all American, They all sold really well. They all originated at about the same time in the early 80s and started recording sometime between 83 and 85, although actually I think it was 83 or 84 for all of them. I think it was 83 for everyone except Megadeth, and I could be wrong, I'd have to check. And they're all still around and making records and touring, okay? So all of a sudden, a lot of the bands I'd like to throw out there, I mean, I would love to throw out, say, well, obviously it's Destruction, or obviously it's Voivod, because I love those bands, but Destruction's German, Voivod is Canadian, and they pretty much quit after Piggy died. So really the only candidates out there that I could think of, and I've been racking my brains, the really only candidates are probably Testament, Overkill, and maybe Death Angel, I think you can make an argument for. So either it's just like a completely pointless contest, you know, where, okay, well, which one of these three bands is your favorite? Or, you know, what can we actually do to, like, bring something to this? So I really thought about this. Like I said, I thought this was a hard contest. I thought about it a lot. And I put my thinking cap on, you might say. You'd be a dork if you said that, but I said it, so hey. Now in his response, this is sort of the catalyst for my decision on this. In his response, the backwoods metal dude, Jared from Louisiana, he threw out there that they had probably done more as far as bringing people into the genre than other bands. And I think that's a pretty solid point. I don't know if some of them would have done it on their own, but I don't know, but it's pretty solid, you know? I mean, there are probably people who listened to the Black Album and thought it was great, and they would listen to Kill 'Em All because of that, and maybe they discovered, maybe they discovered Infernal Overkill because of that, right? So maybe not, too, but for as easy as to talk shit about the radio play and the commercialism and all that other stuff, those bands did do a lot to bring people into that style of music. Now, I love Testament. I can't say I know their catalog after about 1990 very well, after the first two records. Overkill, same deal, although you'd be surprised how recently I got into them, and same thing with Death Angel. And any of those would be too easy anyway. So I thought about who I could bring into this, okay? And the other thing that was sort of the key for me, in addition to Jared's video, is thinking about what these bands actually are as opposed to what they're called, okay? Now, they're the big four of thrash, right? But here's the thing. Megadeth was never really a thrash band, okay? You listen to Kill 'Em All and Show No Mercy and Fistful of Metal side by side, and those are fucking thrash records. You listen to Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good, and that's not a thrash record, man. It has some parts, you know, but you compare that to those, or like Bonded by Blood, or The Legacy, or Forbidden Evil, or a ton of other records, the Ultraviolence, it is not a thrash record. It's just fucking not. And they got even less thrash later on. I only own the first two anymore, okay? That one, Peace Sells, not a thrash record. Alright, there are lots of good things to say about that record, but it's not a thrash record. So Far So Good, So What, not a thrash record. Rust in Peace, also not a thrash record. I don't care how much you love it, it's not a thrash record. So now that piece has fallen down, okay? And without having to say, well, Metallica sold way the fuck out in the 90s, so fuck them, these don't have to be thrash bands anyway. I want to say Manila Road because I love Manila Road, but I think that would be reaching too far. So the band that I arrived at that I would put in is who started about the same time, early 80s, they put out their first records, were overlooked by a lot of people, okay, but have built a following over time and have become one of the most influential bands in the genre that they basically co-created. They're still around, still touring, and they're fucking fantastic, and this is one of the few bands I actually turned on to by seeing them live and being so amazed that I went out and bought their records after previously having heard their records and not thinking that much of them. And they're American, and this band is who we're listening to right now, which is Saint Vitus. Alright? You've heard of Black Doom, you've heard of Funeral Doom, you've heard of Death Doom, you've heard of Traditional Doom. St. Vitus is kind of the godfather of all those. And if you go back to the 80s when St. Vitus were getting going, Witchfinder General was a little bit earlier. Candlemass was pretty much contemporary, and that's about it, man. I could make an argument for Deep Switch. I could make an argument for Deliverance from the UK. But St. Vitus was in a very small field that ended up having a hell of a lot of influence. So right now, we're listening to their last record that I have, which is 2012. I actually thought it was more recent than that. That's my entry, and just for grins, I'm going to go through and show my St. Vitus records real quick. So here's the first one with a nice embossed cover. And they were on SST. I mean, the record was produced by Des Cadena and engineered by Spot. So, the fucking SST stable, and apparently, I don't know if this is true, this may be apocryphal, but apparently Henry Rollins went to Greg Ginn and said, you have got to sign these guys, even though they totally didn't fit into the roster. Alright, so we've got that one. I'm going to turn these around so I can file them away. Here's the Walking Dead 12-inch. Great fucking record. This is still the Scott Rieger era, okay? This is, actually that's his name, isn't it? Yeah, Scott Rieger. And this is Hollow's Victim. Awesome record. This is the first one then with Wino, who's kind of better known with It's Born Too Late. Fucking great record. It's actually a bootleg of Born Too Late that I bought before SST started putting them back out, so it's the way it goes. Here's the Thirsty and Miserable 12-inch where they did their Black Flag cover with Look Behind You and The End of the World. This is kind of like their epic metal record, which is kind of a weirdo in the catalog, but it's still great. Mournful Cries, which is also still on SST, and this brings us up to 1988. Okay, then they moved over to Hellhound, actually, and Southern Lord reissued these. Those Hellhound ones are tough to find, so this is, something, it's V. I don't know if it's actually 5. I always assumed it was 5, like it was their 5th record, but I don't know if it is. 1, 2, that's 12, it's 2, 3. Yeah, so it's their 5th record. Okay, so it's 5. St. Vitus 5. Or V, I don't give a shit. The guy who turned me on to him and dragged me to that show called it V. It's great. That's a good starting point. That was my first one. This one followed shortly afterwards, the Double Live. Also on Southern Lord. Great shit. Then Wino left again after that one. They made this one, COD, which was actually produced by Don Dokken and St. Vitus, which is pretty fucking weird if you think about this. This only came out on CD at the time. This is a later issue. It's interesting. The date on this is 2013, but the original date is 1992. I'm trying to figure out who the singer was. DC Vitus guitarist. Christian Linderson. So there you go. Okay. Very cool record, though. They didn't lose their touch. They didn't lose their sound. This one doesn't sound like the Wino records, which in turn don't sound like the Scott Rieger's records, but they all sound doomy as fuck, and they maintain that identity, and by this time they really had a hell of a cult following. So the last one I have, other than the last one, there's this one that Scott Rieger's came back for, which is Die Healing, and this is another one that didn't come out on record at the time. This is a later press on Buried by Time and Dust, but it's also a fucking fantastic record. This is one of the few bands where I might like their later records more than their earlier records. I love those 80s ones on SST, but this is just fucking solid shit. So anyway, that's my entry, man. St. Vitus. I found a loophole. Like I said, I'm copping out, okay? I didn't give you a 5th thrash band, but you know something? You didn't have a 4th thrash band, so I feel like I'm within my rights. Because Megadeth, I don't care what anyone says, they're not a fucking thrash band. And anyone who's a thrasher knows. You know who else I considered putting in that spot, by the way? Ultimatum. Main reason not to put an Ultimatum is they started too late. And I think they're split up now as of about a year ago, but I'm not sure. But Ultimatum delivered quality records throughout a long dry spell for metal and kept it up and really held the thrash flame high in a way that Megadeth never did, honestly. So Yeah, it crossed my mind, but St. Vitus won because I bent the rules. So, or the bet were rules by the chodes who came up with the fucking term Big Four in the first place. Anyway, that's my Big Five. All right, there we go. Thanks for watching. We're done.